Hi, I'm Larry Lobo, Chief Engineer of Noisy Gate Studios. Today, we have the opportunity to demonstrate these three amazing monitors, the Adam A7X, the Focal Alpha 65 Evo, and the Neumann KH120A. Thank you, Pro Musicals Delhi Sound Store, for providing us this opportunity to demonstrate all these amazing products. Thank you, Neumann Berlin. Thank you, Adam Audio. Thank you, Focal Audio, for these manufacturing these amazing products. So let's do this.
This is a fucked up world, driven hard by greed and lust. Insanity is taking over. Let us all into self-destruct. Lock, load, fire away. Let it burn, let it smolder away. Keep on digging your grave. Let fuse times ticking away. When the walls come crashing down, who will wear the crown? Saints, don't be afraid. Let it out, I wanna hear your thunder. Singers, are you ready to rage? Loud and proud, I wanna hear your thunder. Saints, don't be afraid. The man upstairs was a hear your thunder. Singers, are you ready to rage? The beast below was to feel your thunder. All hope just fades away. In God we're supposed to trust. Insanity is taking over. Let the fires of hell rise up. Lock, load, fire away. Let it burn, let it smolder away. Keep on digging your grave. Let fuse times ticking away. When the walls come crashing down, who will wear the crown? Saints, don't be afraid. Let it out, I wanna hear your thunder. Singers, are you ready to rage? Loud and proud, I wanna hear your thunder. Saints, don't be afraid. The man upstairs was to hear your thunder. Singers, are you ready to rage? The beast below was to feel your thunder. Feel your thunder.
All right, I'm blown away. There's a lot of difference between these monitors, which is a given. Of course, the price point is different, the cabinet size is different, the cones are different, and the construction is different in all three monitors. All right. So let me first start with the Neumanns. Okay. Overall, the Neumanns sound amazing. Okay. The Neumanns are smooth on the top. It has good, tight, low end. The mids, I must say, the mids are not, they are forgiving to the ears, of course, but they are not as clear as I would want as a mix engineer or a mastering engineer. I would want to hear the mids very clearly, be critical about it, and shape it at least the high mids. I want to be able to shape it in such a way that they don't pierce the ears of the listener in any kind of in any volume. And it's very evident that the Neumann is lacking a little bit in the high mids region where the Adams excel. Okay, let's jump to the Adams then. Okay, uh, Adams, always a fan. Of course, I'm always a fan of the Adams. I've been working a lot with Adams. Um, they out of all these three, I think the Adams are the best for the mid range, for the highs, just because. Okay, we have obviously heard this on the internet that the Adams might sound shrill on the highs, they might sound edgy in the high mid range, but that is the point. At least in my opinion, that is the exact point. Okay, so Adams excel in this, in my opinion, because if you can tame the highs. If you can critically tame the high mids and highs region of your mix on the Adams, they will 110% definitely they will sound great on all these speakers. And in my opinion, all in the cars which most of the engineers struggle, everywhere, basically on the theaters, everywhere. Okay, but of course it lacks the bass. Okay, everyone knows that, but let me actually tell you the truth about it. They lack bass. Their bass is not very punchy, or you can say not very tight if compared to the Neumanns and the Focals. Okay, but they excel in the mids and the highest range, and I can give you that. Okay, let's jump to the Focals. I'm super surprised. Okay, after knowing the price of the Focals, the Alpha 65 Evo, I think if I would have started with a blank slate, if I would have set up my home studio with a blank slate, I would 100% buy the Focals, because of, if my budget was tight, definitely overall listening experience super awesome. Okay, you'll start jumping around if you listen to the Focals in your room. I can give you that. At least if you're not going very critical about the high mid range. Okay, we had a listening shootout. Okay, and this almost all the engineers who were in the building, they pointed that out, and I can also say, I can attest to that, that the crossover frequencies of the mid and the highs range in the Focals, it's somewhere around it could be around 3K range, 3000 hertz cycles, right? So there is a slight peak, you can say, a slight notch up in that frequency range. So it's very evident to the ears. Okay, almost we listen to more tracks. At least in this track, I can clearly say that there's a spike in that range. Other than that, the bass response is the best out of these three, and I think the bass is the most technical. It's the most it's the most difficult thing to get out of small cabinet designs, maybe. Yeah, because if the Neumann is tight in the bass, Focals are punchy in the bass. Okay, if you like producing modern music, modern pop, electronic music, hands down get the Focals if it lies in the budget. If you have a higher budget, I think the Neumanns could be a good option, unless you find them a little less tasty. If by tasty I mean less colored. Okay, they are I feel they are very ruler flat, but a little high mid scooped. And definitely get the Adams if you're very anal and critical about your mix. Okay, your mixes will translate very well if you mix it on Adams. Of course, I would recommend getting a subwoofer if you're buying at least the Neumann and Adams. If you're buying them, definitely get a subwoofer for the Adams. I purchased a subwoofer for the Adams, the Sub 10 MK2. After that, I felt I cannot live without the subwoofer, because after getting the subwoofer, my mixes are translating very well. I can hear everything from down low to everything up top. They claim, the Adams claim that their tweeters go around till 50,000 hertz. Okay, that's crazy, because these the Neumann and Focals not even close to that, basically. So let's hear a different genre. I have heard it on numerous speakers and in different environments, and I really know this song. All right, let's listen to this.
It all got dark. I only know how to go too far. My bad habits lead to late nights and alone conversations with a stranger I barely know. Swearing this will be the last, but it probably won't. I got nothing.
Instantly, you can see. Okay, you can actually hear I hope you're hearing this, but I jumped from the Neumanns to the Adams. All right. Neumanns overall good experience. Okay. It's chilled environment. I can work for long hours. All right. But I cannot hear what the mids of the vocals and the snare. And you know, the snare is the most difficult thing to get right. Of course, you can instantly hear it very clear on the Adams, and Neumanns are good to listen to, but if you want to balance the snare sound, if you want to balance the mids, if you want to hear what the compression is doing, what the I think the overall master bus compression and limiter is doing to the snare, to the actually to the mids, Adams. You can hear that. Okay, these are the Adams.
Lose or use or do my bad habits lead to white eyes staring into space, and I know I lose control of the things that I say.
And now the Neumanns.
Was looking for a way out, now I can't escape. Nothing happens after.
The snare is gone. All right. And if you have, of course, if you have went to a concert, if you have listened to loudspeakers, or if you have been to the theaters, all right, you know, if your mids are not clear, if your mids are not controlled enough, the audience is not going to actually the audience will have a hard time bearing the audio. It will bleed, right? Neumanns are not telling me what exactly is happening in the mids. So Neumanns, maybe you might want to look into that, or if you like that flavor, maybe if you are someone, if you're an engineer, if you're a post-production guy or a sound designer who has to work for long hours, 10, 15 hours straight, whatever your workflow is, get the Neumanns, man. They're very forgiving. They're awesome in the lows, and they're very silky smooth in the highs. If you're very critical about your mix, if you want to get your mix done very quickly, I must say I have to give it to the Adams. Now let's see what the Focals are doing for this song.
It's true, my bad habits lead to you. My bad habits lead to you. We took the long way round, and I know I lose control of the things that I say. I was looking for a way out, now I can't escape. Nothing happens after two. It's true, my bad habits lead to you. My bad habits lead to you.
In the Focals, you can hear the transient of the drums right in a way that you can control the transients in your mixes while hearing the transients of the drums in your mixes very well if you're listening to the Focals. But I must say, my ears are getting fatigued a lot while listening to Focals if compared to the Adams and the Neumanns. Okay, we can say that the Focals are somewhere between the Neumann and the Adams, just because it is more clear in the lows as well as the high mid range. But if I if I would say an honest opinion and an overall quality, of course, according to the price also, I would still have the Focals for these modern tracks. All right, but as maybe not as the first pair. If I have a good budget, then I would definitely get the Focals, just because I can hear to the overall vibe, and it's somewhat similar to how my car stereo sounds, which is insane. Okay, so if I don't really want to jump into my car and listen to every mix revisions, maybe I'll just get the Focals and be done with it, because they are awesome to have, and you can actually carve out your masters very easily listening to them, just because of the full frequency range, and it's very tight. Okay, it's very tight. Let's listen to another track by Kefinama. Did you know? It's a rock track. Let's rock ballad actually. So let's listen to it.
Did you know that I've been dreaming about you? Did you know you are all I have? Fighting at all places, making love all night. Remember how we used to be? Oh, that was a time. Just look around, baby. You still see me behind. Just look around, baby. I've been here all the time. Take my hand, baby. I'll hold you so tight. Believe me, baby, you'll never fall when I'm behind. Did you know that dreams do come true? I wanna tell you, mine will do come true when I'll be with you.
Okay. Now, let me just say that someone just said in the listening session the same thing, that choosing the right monitor can also be genre specific. If you like some genre, maybe you go invest in a monitor which actually sounds like that genre, maybe, if that's the right word. And yeah, this track, I must say, of course, this track I mixed myself. I mixed on the Adam A7X. It sounds stunning, according to me. It sounds stunning on the Adams, much more clear in the high mids, everywhere. Of course, the low end, I can feel it. It's not thumpy enough on the Adams. Uh, that's why I use a subwoofer for the Adams. I used a subwoofer, and I know it sounds great combined with it. On the Neumanns, it it sounded fine. Of course, it sounds fine, but all the tracks that we have listened to so far on the Neumanns, I have to point it out. I cannot hear any depth. I'm so sorry to say, Neumann fans, but there's no depth in these Neumanns, especially. Maybe they're small, that's why. But of course, it's smooth to listen to. It's smooth to balance. Of course, it would be great to balance the frequencies, but if I wanted to hear what my reverbs are doing, maybe my effects, what my effects are doing, how far I want the reverb, how big I want the music to sound, I will never go for the Neumanns. So sorry to say, but I am not going to get the Neumanns in that regard. Of course, for listening, they are awesome. For Cals and Adams, Excel, I think they sound awesome on this song. All right. For they're not very close to each other sound wise, but I'm enjoying it on the vocals also. Of course, the high mid bump in the vocals, which is very evident in all of the songs that we've heard, it's a given. It's there in this song also, but I can live with that if I'm referencing on not for long hours, maybe, right? If I just want to hear it as a second speaker, or maybe I'm listening in soft levels, on right. But of course, I would definitely get a Focal and an Adam together, not the Neumanns, especially in these kind of tracks. They don't really work for me. The low end is tight, of course, in the Neumanns, but that I can get from the Focals also. And they are louder. Focals are, the perceived loudness is, it's louder than the Neumanns. Let's hear some a Bollywood number. Let's see. I love this track. Great mix.
बात दिल की नजरों ने की सच कह रहा तेरी कसम तेरे बिन अब न लेंगे एक भी दम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम तेरे साथ हो जाएंगे खत्म तुझे कितना चाहने.
The vocals are actually sounding like my earpods, whatever you call it. They're sounding the same like that. It's crazy.
लगे हम तुझे कितना चाहने लगे हम. इस जगह आ गई चाहते अब मेरी छीन लूंगा तुम्हें सारी दुनिया.
Neumanns are excelling in this kind of a track. It's a soothing track. We want the instrumentation to sound clear, smooth, soft, much more dynamic. I love how the Neumanns are sounding in this track. It's easy to listen to, of course. If I just had the Neumanns and I wanted to mix this kind of a track, I would be more than happy to do it. Adams, it's a bit harsher than Neumann's. To listen to such tracks and sit for a long time, maybe you'll scoop out the high mids while listening to such a track on the Adams, and they might sound dull in some speakers, right? But in the Neumanns, maybe the engineer definitely may reference on the Neumanns for this track. We're not sure, but probably. It sounds very good overall on the Neumanns. I think the vocals come second in this track. It's just great. The vocals just sound like my earphones. I can't believe that. Okay, let's listen to a orchestral track by A.R. Rahman.
கண்ணெதிரே எந்தன் உயிரை காண்பேனோ உன் புன்னகையில் புனிதமாகி போவேனோ செம்மலர்கள் யாவும் உன் பாதம் பூக்குமே அந்த வானம் உனதன்பாகுமே தகுமோ என்
mixed this track. I think he did a very good job. The track sounds great on all these speakers. The song's name is Kanna Tire. I think I might be pronouncing it wrong, but nevertheless, it sounds great on all these speakers. But of course, Neumann's smooth on top. All right, I myself would have a hard time judging the highs in the song while mixing if I just had the Neumanns. For this song, I would definitely go with the Adams. It has everything, all the details. The low and the bass is also very evident in the Adams, since because I think the song in the bass in the song is not going very low. uh, it's somewhere very evident around the 60 and 60 cycles and above. And the orchestral, just the sounds of all the instruments are very clear on the Adams. Okay, I would have a very easy time balancing and EQing all the instruments on the Adams. Vocals, I think we'll need to listen to the vocals once more, since it didn't get a lot of views in this. Let me just play.
கண்ணெதிரே எந்தன் உயிரை காண்பேனோ உன் பொன்
Yeah, so vocals are sounding full, definitely. They sound like a theater. Not high and not the highs frequencies. No, it doesn't have a very high mid forward thing in this song. You can, in other terms, you might call it scooped. Okay, mid scooped or hollow in the mids. But isn't that a good thing if you really want to hear how the song will translate in cars, how the song will translate in a big room, in a hall? Maybe isn't that a good thing? Maybe to have a pair of vocals. Yeah, I have to give it to the Adams for this song. It's highly detailed. I'll give you that. But this is Kaise Main Kahun by Ragasram, Aruna Mawali, and Chirag Daya.
देखे हजारों पर कोई ना तुमसा है, तुझ में अलग बात है। कुछ तेरे कुछ मेरे में क्या है, बता दे समझ में पाऊंगा। तुझे कैसे मैं कहूँ, मेरी बातों में बस तू, ना लेना देना सबसे, चाहिए बस तू। तू जो मिल जाए तो तू मेरे को जाने दो, आखिर में हम कह सकूं।
Again, the mid-range, a little scoop in the mid-range of the Neumanns are giving me a very hard time judging their mids. It's what can I say about it? Of course, the Adams sound great in this very vocal forward song. All right, I can hear the vocals, the balance of the vocal very clearly. Vocals very enjoyable, of course. It's a hard decision, but if I had to choose between these three, okay, if considering the price bracket, Adams are of course the most expensive out of these three. The Neumanns second. Vocals are the cheapest out of the lot. They don't sound cheap, but they are the cheapest out of the lot. If I had to choose one monitor for everything, Adam Audio A7X, hands down. Everything is awesome. I can get a subwoofer down the line, of course, but for everything else, Adams are very critical for listening. I'm a very anal guy. I just love mixing. I'm very critical about my mixes, at least in the mids and highs range. I want the audio, the song to hug the listener in the mid range, especially, and not really be. I mean, if it's a smooth song, if it's a classical track, of course it should sound like that, smooth. But the mid should hug the listener, especially in Kaise Main Kahun, the song. In the Neumanns, it's flat, it's smooth, okay. But in the Adams are producing a very 3D like image. They're hugging me from the side. They're very deep, and I can actually visually see what's going on in the reverbs, effects, everything. Even in the track, all the tracks that's there, that's very evident in the Adams. Maybe that's because of the ribbon tweeters that go around 50,000 hertz. That's awesome. Okay. And if I had a budget constraint, out of the Focals and Neumanns, uh, I think Neumann would be great, probably. Yeah, because I, as an engineer, I produce, I record, I mix, I master, and my working hours can get very long. Okay, it could be around 14 hours. It could be a full day. Maybe I'm getting a 3-4 hours sleep, and I think the Neumanns would be great for that. That's actually my honest opinion, because I'm not getting fatigued on the Neumanns. It sounds expensive. It it's not very expensive, but it sounds expensive. And um, but it if to be fair with the Focals, since I record with clients inside this room, they might not really enjoy the Neumanns. If as an engineer, if the artist might not really enjoy the Neumanns because it lacks the thump. Maybe I'll have to play the Neumanns very loud to actually have the artist listen to the bass and the highs very clearly. But for that, the Focals will definitely excel. And if I want to please the clients, if I really want the clients to jump around in the room, I would definitely hands down get the Focals. So that's why it's a very hard decision, and I desperately want to own them. Maybe try the smaller ones and the bigger ones of both the Focals and Neumanns too. Maybe the bigger Neumanns might have more full range sound, uh, like the Adams, and maybe the bigger Focals might have a more rounded sound, because maybe it's lacking the low mids, the mids or in the Focals. There's a bit, what do you call it, hollowness, little mid scooped. Maybe the bigger ones are full range. You never know. Maybe the bigger ones have a very good frequency response. I'll have to demo them. But out of these three, Adams, Neumanns, and Focals, that's my honest opinion.